things move pretty rapidly at this point. The Russians successful against the Germans at the Battle of Kursk and Stalingrad and plenty of other places are able to enter the German capital in April of 1945. Of course, Italy has already been taken. Mussolini's body is dragged through the streets of Rome. If we add to this, our three-term president Franklin Roosevelt dies in 1945, which means that Harry S. Truman comes to the American presidency at a point where there are huge losses of life and makes some strategic decisions that I'll talk about in just a second. With troops closing in on Berlin, Hitler commits suicide in April of 1945 in a bunker. Germany surrenders 7 days later, which means that now there's victory in Europe. On the flip side, in the Pacific War, Japan's a lot more difficult. It's an island nation, it's hard to get to. They have troops hold down in a whole variety of different islands surrounding Japan. And it's in this context that Harry S. Truman deploys a new technology that the U.S. has been working on, in many ways thanks to a lot of Jewish immigrants who have left Europe in the context of World War II. And Truman makes the decision to drop atomic bombs in Japan to force their surrender. Now, I want to take a second and think about this. One, because this is the United States intentionally targeting civilians, women and children. How does that fit within the larger scope of the war here? A lot of arguments have been made that Russia was poised to invade Japan as well. So in some ways, the U.S. dropping of an atomic bomb, or actually two of them on Japan, would be a way to facilitate Japan's surrender before Russia could go in. You've got to keep in mind that once Germany is defeated, now those small differences between the United States and Communist Soviet Union that seemed not that big of a deal when they had a common enemy start to raise their heads. And people in Britain and the United States start wondering, okay, now after this, how are we going to contend with the Soviet Union? As a result of the dropping of those atomic bombs, Japan surrenders in August of 1945. The dates of the German surrender and Japanese surrender are known as VE, Victory in Europe Day, and VJ, Victory in Japan Day. Take a look at this last point, though. The human losses of this war. So compared to World War I, nearly twice as many people die. 17 million people in the military, 18 million civilians, more civilians than soldiers die. I've mentioned before, I believe, that if you look at the scope of World War II, on average, somebody dies every 3 seconds as a result of a bullet, starvation, concentration camps, any other number of elements that come from this. So now, without even thinking about the Holocaust, which we will next, the world kind of has to think about, yet again, how to put itself together. Do all those ideals of the Enlightenment, that we can come up with rational forms of government, that we can use technology to make the world a better place for humans. Do those fit in this new 20th century?